ads themselves and show you a little bit, kind of reveal a real world scenario of what goes on here. So one thing I want to point out is that we've got a fair amount of, I mean, this isn't a massive amount of spend, but we've got a fair amount of spend on this campaign, and most of the original spend was not working. It was a campaign that was not producing leads at the right rate, at the right cost, and we were not happy with the results, and that's part of what you encounter when you're running ads on behalf of a client. So uh, some of what we some of what we did to adapt this, we had started by running one style of campaign and completely shifted. We were running a messenger bot style campaign, which I have previously had a lot of success with, but in this case, it wasn't working as well. And so what we did was we shifted to a Meet Roost style campaign with a landing page and started running traffic to that, and that's really where we were able to dial it in and get the ad performing like we wanted to. And you can see, like, there are some metrics that can lead you astray. We were getting really good cost per click, but that doesn't matter. We were trying to generate leads, and so while we were getting great cost per click, we were not getting the leads generated. So we had to shift and adjust, and that's what we did. So the takeaway from that portion, just more at a meta level, is make sure that when you launch a campaign with a client, especially if it's a new client, a new kind of campaign for you, even if it's the same campaign that you've run in other markets, let them know. Say, when we're getting started, every one of these campaigns is its own beast, and there's going to be a period of time where we're going to be dialing this in and figuring it out as we go. Now, luckily for you, I am experienced enough to be able to dial it in effectively, but I don't want you to go into this thinking that it's going to work right from the beginning. We're going to have a period of learning. We're going to try and learn as quickly as possible, as cheap as possible, but do note that it takes some time to dial these campaigns and get them performing. And because I had that conversation with my client before we launched this strategy, they knew and expected what was going to happen and what went in. So it gave me the time, the space, and the breathing room in order to get the campaign performing like I needed to. Now, luckily, it's not like we were getting zero results, and there were things that we could point to, like the posts were getting a lot of engagement, a lot of comments, a lot of likes, all that kind of thing. So we were able to grow their page likes a little bit by inviting those people to like the page, and we were able to talk about some of what we were seeing that was positive, that was useful. But it was, very honest, frank conversations about adapting that. So let me walk you through a couple of the things that made the difference. You can see here, these two different campaigns were optimizing for different things. This one was optimized for link clicks. And I have historically been able to get success by optimizing for engagement on these style of campaigns as well. But in this case, what ended up making the difference was actually changing the optimization to be for conversion and lead. So again, if you're not familiar with how you do that, so when you're creating an ad, and you may not use this creation wizard. This is going to be the quick creation wizard. But in here, what I selected is for campaign objective. I selected conversion, and then when you actually go in and set up the ad, there's a section where you can select lead as the conversion event. Now, what's interesting to note is that you can actually see here, I didn't have the conversion event set up correctly. So Facebook was not actually seeing these events fire properly like they were supposed to. But even with that, changing what we were optimizing for started making the campaign work and generate more leads, just by telling Facebook, these are the kinds of things that we want to do, the kinds of people that we want you to put the ad in front of. That made it start to convert. So this is for this spend, we ended up getting 29 leads. That's 128.75 divided by 29. So that gave us a cost of about $4.43 a lead. For this ad, well, that was actually pretty solid. This was a higher end property, so again, we would see less leads generated off of that generally. And yeah, so we were excited for the results. In terms of what I expect to see. I've seen sub-dollar leads before, so less than a buck. But I expect that range to fit within about anywhere from about $1 to $20, and anywhere in there can be what's going on, depending on what's going on in the market, what market you're running the ads to, et cetera. So there's pretty wide variety in that. And sometimes you just have to dive in and see what you can get generated in that area. So let's go ahead and dive in here into the campaign itself. I'm going to click in here to edit so we can walk through some of the specific settings for this campaign itself. So that's another thing to note. When you're running these style of ads, you definitely need to select the housing special ad category. If you don't, you are going to get your ad rejected, and it's annoying, and it's simple to fix. It's right here up toward the top. Turn on the special ad category, select housing. There isn't a way around it. Don't try to get around it. You're just going to cause yourself pain and heartache, so don't worry about it. Select the housing, and everything that I do, everything that I talk about from here on, operates under this special ad category housing. So if your client wants you to dial things in further, you got to let them know this style of ad. We can't run it another way and not risk like your entire Facebook account getting shut down. So definitely you're going to select that housing category. For campaign details, we've got an auction buying type and conversions of the campaign objective. I have recently been running campaign budget optimization. And yeah, I look at about a minimum of $5 a day, and that tends to be solid for these style of campaigns. You don't need a ton of money behind them; they still work great, but they can scale up more than that as well. If you have a client who's got a lot of budget that wants to generate a bunch of leads, you can go higher than that pretty effectively. I have actually ran campaigns like this depending on the area, to the tune of like $100 a day. For these style of ads. Now they won't last super long at that rate, but I have been able to throw a lot of spend through these style of campaigns. So that is available, but $5 a day is about the minimum that I recommend. All right, continuing on. So in terms of the targeting for these, let's go ahead and dive into that. We'll give this a second to load. But the basic idea is that you're going to be targeting people who live in the area. And depending on the area, you may play a little bit with some of the other options as well. So let me see. Is this gonna? There we go. So yeah, let's start at the top and work our way down. So ad set name, I tend to give it a name that just accurately reflects what's inside. Conversion is going to be website conversion event. Website conversion. You're going to select the pixel, and then you're going to make sure you have that event set up and firing. So again, I set this up incorrectly. What I will do for you real quick, I will show you where you are going to set this up. So in here in the business, you're going to go into the advanced, and that's where you're going to set up the tracking information itself right there. So that's where you want to put in the tracking information. You're going to put in your Facebook pixel and all of that. If you guys need extra help with that, the main thing you want to do is you want to set up the lead event firing on your second page. If you need more help with that, I could set up a secondary video to walk you through that. So feel free to reach out if you need that. But otherwise, that's what you're going to do. You're going to get that conversion pixel information onto your advanced section in the setup of the business. I don't use the dynamic creative for budget and schedule. I'm just starting I'm having a start date and letting it run, and then turning it off when it stops performing. For the audience, what we are going to do, I generally do the location. You have to do a minimum of 15 miles around it. And then this is the area that you can play with. So I will often change this to people living in the location and just go after the people living in the location. And that tends to get me great results. In this case, I included people recently in this location because in this market, specifically in Florida, they're seeing a lot of people moving to Florida. There's a lot of shift in the world in terms of real estate, and so a lot of people are moving out of like New York and moving down into Florida. So we targeted people recently in this location as well in order to capture those who had been there recently, even if they weren't living there. And then we combine that with some other stuff. We can't change the age or gender. There's no reason to. It doesn't make a lick of difference. If you get any flack or feedback on this, one of the things that I pointed out even before this was required is that by having the age range a little bit wider than the actual people that are necessarily going to buy the property, you end up in front of the kids who know that their parents are looking for a property. You may end up with the older family member who knows that their kids are looking for a property, et cetera. And you get those people tagging or commenting and engaging and actually pulling the right people in for you. So it actually, the way that these ads work, even though they're a little bit widely targeted, it actually ends up happening or helping because it gets you more engagement. And then this is the other part of the targeting that you could throw in. I'll walk you through a little bit of my thoughts on this. So the first interest that I throw in now, first off, I don't always even include interest. Sometimes I go completely wide open, just targeting people in the area and get great results. In this case, I experimented with adding in some of these interests. If I'm going to add in a real estate interest, these are some of the interests that I do. So first off, I'll put in house hunting, and then I'll start looking at the suggestions and grabbing the ones that make the most sense to me. So what you're looking for is you're putting yourself in the mind of the real estate buyer, thinking through what would they be looking at, what are some of the things that would pop up for them. So house hunting, homes.com, mortgage calculator, mortgage loans, pre-qualification, lending, Trulia, Zillow. Some of these can be hit or miss because real estate agents also will show an interest in Zillow and Trulia. So you may not always just be getting people interested, from the buying perspective. And then I threw in luxury real estate into this one specifically because it is a luxury property. It is at the luxury end of that market. I would not necessarily include luxury real estate unless the property that you're promoting is a luxury property, because you're just going to start putting your ads in front of people that aren't likely a good fit. But some of the other targeting that didn't make sense for this one because of the kind of property it was, but can make sense for others. Let me see if they'll pop up here in the suggestions. First-time buyer, first-time home buyer grant, and single-family detached homes. Those are great options to add in as well if they fit the property. So if you've got a property that could be a decent first-time home property, or at least it looks like it could be, then those could be great targeting interests to throw in as well. And then the single-family detached home, that most of the time I throw that one in. This happened to be a condo, so if people are interested in a single-family home, they're not likely going to be interested in this. So there you go. That's some of the targeting. Again, I like, there isn't much in terms of ninja tricks on how we're doing this portion of these ads. They're fairly simple ads, and yet they still get great results. For placements, I actually often go with automatic placements. This one I think was on manual placements because of how I had it initially set up with the Messenger bot campaign. I would actually normally run this with automatic placements and still get great results. But if you're going to narrowing it down to the Facebook newsfeed can be a great option. I don't mess with the optimization and delivery for those. And then let's dive in to the actual ad itself, the ad creative, and how we set that up. So you're going to give it a name. I generally name it after the property. You're going to select the Facebook page. And then for the ad setup, so this is sometimes, you might mentally skip over this, but you're going to select the use existing post option in this drop down here. Excuse me. Need to sneeze. All right. You're gonna select the use existing post, and then from there you can select the post that you want. I don't tend to use a call to action button on these, though you can. Adding a button. Yeah. So I forget why I can't do it right now, but you could add a button. I don't tend to find the need to. We select our pixel, and then there you go. That's the ad itself. So again, some of the lessons that I learned on this one that you should take away from this: play with your targeting. You might have to dial it in. You might have to play with it a bit in order to make it work right. We originally set up our campaigns to target link clicks. Those didn't convert into leads for us, so we changed it to leads. I have ran these as just engagement style ads and gotten a lot of leads off of them that way too. You're not going to know until you actually dive in and check. What I generally recommend is use whatever worked most recently for you, unless you run into problems, and then start adapting and playing with it. But don't get too surprised if you run a strategy and it's like not working quite like you're looking for. You might need to play with it and dial it in order to actually make it work. But then once you do, you can run these ads. They tend to work great for a while. If you've got a lower budget, you can run these for a long time. Some of the things to keep in mind: you really shouldn't run these ads after the property is sold, but you can run the ads at least for a few days when the property goes under contract. Because until the property has fully closed, there's always a chance that it comes out of escrow because the deal falls through and a problem happens, and it's still worthwhile to collect buyer interest in the meantime. These style of campaigns will generate largely buyer leads, but some percentage of those buyer leads, generally about 10%, need to sell a home as well. So this style of campaign generates seller leads through the buyer first perspective. So keep that in mind, but it is largely a buyer first strategy. Again, $5 a day budget is about what I expect, but it can scale up from there. And then I'm looking to see about a $5 to $15 a lead budget, but it can be way wider than that. It could be 1 to 20 sometimes too. So take a look at how your campaigns are performing. Make sure you're not setting unrealistic expectations of having these perform right out of the gate. You don't want to back yourself into a corner that you can't get yourself out of. And then there you go. That's kind of the ads themselves. One of the other things to note, this is more of a kind of a business level idea of how this goes. I actually, in this first campaign, because we couldn't get it working like we expected to, and it took us a while to dial it in, I refunded the client's second month, I think, of fees. They still paid for the ads. I didn't pay for the ads, but I refunded like my management fee to them because we weren't getting any results, and I wanted to kind of show them that I was going to dial in the campaign and make sure that it was working correctly for them. And I didn't expect them to pay extra for me to dive in and do that. And what's cool is that this is actually a great client, and they had offered to actually still pay me for that, and they weren't too worried about it. But note that sometimes that's what you do, right? Like I knew I had him as a client, I knew I had him as a customer, and so I didn't need like you don't necessarily want to work for free in general because then you attract the right types, the wrong types of customers. But this guy was willing to pay. I was really the one who wasn't delivering like I wanted to deliver. So I met him, at that place and refunded that fee so that I bought myself the time to get it dialed in. And now we got the campaign dialed in. We're able to run more campaigns. Everything's great. And I secured a long-term relationship by being able to do that. So keep that in mind. You want to, when you're running these campaigns, focus primarily on getting a result that the client's going to be happy with, and then do what you need to adjust adjust what you're doing, dial the campaigns in, and possibly even give up a little bit of cash in the short term in order to lock in a long-term lifetime relationship as well. So there you go. That's the campaign itself in Facebook. I think that covers it for this campaign. In the next video, I'm going to dive in and show you another campaign that you can run and what that looks like. This one isn't tested with this client yet. We're about to launch it, but I wanted to kind of reveal it and show you guys what you can do, especially if you don't have a specific property that you can promote with a client. So be looking for that in the next video.